Are you familiar with the Ship of Theseus? If not, it's a thought experiment that goes something like this. Suppose we have a ship, a brand new ship, built entirely out of new material, christened under a specific name, given a crew, and thus it sets sail upon the ocean blue. But you know how it goes. Natural wear and tear happens, things break down, and over time different parts of the ship have to be replaced in order for it to remain seaworthy. Now, suppose for a moment that this process continues until eventually every single original part of the ship has been replaced with a brand new part. The question is it the same ship that we started out with? And depending on what you answer, there are other follow-up questions. If you answer, no, it's not the original ship, then at what point in the process did it stop being the original ship? How many of those original pieces must remain in order for it to still be the original ship? Is there perhaps one particular part that's special in giving that ship its identity? If, on the other hand, you say, yes, it is still the original ship, what makes it so if not the sum of its parts? Is there some ethereal quality that gives the ship its identity? What, in essence, is a ship? One of the reasons I've been pondering this recently is because of the latest ANGUS MCSIX album, and to understand why, we need a little refresher. In 2013, metal guitarist and professional Scotsman Christopher Bowes founded the concept band Gloryhammer, and he hired Thomas Winkler for the role of lead singer and story protagonist Angus MacFife. After 3 albums, Bowes suddenly fired Winkler from the band and replaced him with Sozos Michael. Following this, Sebastian Seb Leverman of Orden Ogan contacted Winkler and proposed the formation of a new band. This new band was ANGUS MCSIX, comprised of Winkler on lead vocals as the heroic ANGUS MCSIX, Seb on guitars as the archdemon Sebulon, Talia Balazeka on guitars as Amazon Queen Telestris, and Manu Lauter on drums as the barbarian Ska. The big debut album, ANGUS MCSIX and the Sword of Power, was released in 2023 to incredible success and positive reviews. And then things got completely upended. Talia wasn't able to make every single live show because she had commitments with her other bands. Same deal went with Seb, so he couldn't necessarily make every live show either. Lauter just up and quit, saying his body wasn't built for touring. And most shocking of all, Thomas Winkler himself also stepped away, saying that he was going to spend time with his wife and newborn son. Well, there goes the lineup, yet here we are in a video about a second album. It could only mean that everyone was replaced. And that's exactly what happened. Even though disbanding was considered, Seb decided to recruit some new band members instead. As the new vocalist, Samuel Nyman takes the role of Angus's older brother, Prince Adam McSix. When Seb is unavailable, Sebulon is played by guitarist Raphael Dobbs-Loa. In Talia's absence, guitarist Jasmine Pabst appears as the Dwarf. Last but certainly not least, drummer Garrett Lamb appears as Orc Zero. Calling that a drastic change is like calling Chernobyl a bad day at the office. I mean, I know bands cycle through members all the time, but a near total lineup change right when it's getting started is just plain abnormal. Nevertheless, that's the crew we've got for the second album, ANGUS MCSIX and the all-seeing Astral Eye. Okay, since this is a concept album, what's it about? At the start, Angus gets ambushed by Sebulon, who imprisons the hero in a block of ice hidden somewhere in the universe. That's really ironic when you recall the fate of Zargathrax and Gloryhammer. Using the last bit of energy he's got, Angus sends a psychic distress call to his brother Adam McSix. Adam wants little to do with heroics and adventure, but since blood is thicker than water, he sets out to find the one object that can locate Angus in a snap, the all-seeing Astral Eye. To this end, he gathers many allies, chief among them being the Dwarf and Orc Zero. For all intents and purposes, this album pushes the reset button for the story that began in the first album. Pushes the reset button? More like smashes it to pieces with a sledgehammer. Yeah, that might be more accurate. The main purpose of this album is to introduce us to the new cast of characters. And while that certainly is jarring, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't intrigued by them. Our new protagonist Adam is very different from his brother. Angus is a dyed-in-the-wool hero who leaps at any quest or cry for help, but Adam is less enthusiastic. His anthem, I Am Adam McSix, sets him up as something of a sullied hero. He used to bring peace and prosperity to the universe, but every ally he ever had fell from grace and brought corruption to the kingdoms he tried to save. In short, he's a raging cynic who would rather be left alone. The only reason he agrees to rescue Angus is because, well, they're brothers and he can't exactly leave him. This sets him up for a potential arc about rediscovering what it means to be a hero. Over the course of the album, he gradually opens up to the idea of viewing his companions as friends rather than annoyances, though he still has a long way to go. Orc Zero is intriguing for different reasons. While every other orc in the universe is violent and barbaric, Zero is gentle and kind-hearted. Indeed, he's the current wielder of Sixcalibur in Angus's absence, and no one else can seem to even touch the sword except for him. He's clearly being set up as very important to the story. There are all kinds of questions surrounding him that have yet to be answered. And the dwarf is also there. Okay, I admit, that's unfair. She is the least developed of the new trio, but that doesn't mean she's a blank slate. She gets a couple of lyrics describing her as a mechanic of sorts. She's also part of a religious order that demands she remain pure and chaste, which is tricky since she might be falling for Orc Zero. Adam is quite fond of teasing her, so the fact that she puts up with it anyway speaks to her having a strong sense of duty and morality, but she'll also need further development in the future. I should also say that the music itself is good, but it's also very different from the first album. On the Sword of Power, you could still hear a lot of influence from Gloryhammer mixed with a few techno elements here and there to emulate video game music. Despite that, it's still unmistakably power metal from beginning to end. The all-seeing Astral Eye leans much heavier into techno, sometimes to the point where I hesitate to call it metal at all. The Fire of Yore even has a dance break that wouldn't sound out of place at a rave. Like you've ever been to a rave. Well, I've seen them on TV. Make no mistake, the music is still catchy, and it makes good use of the many guest vocalists. Notably, this marks a nice return for the a cappella metal band Von Canto, who haven't released any new albums since 2021. There's also no doubt that this new lineup has definite musical talent. Nyman's voice, Pabst's guitar, and Lamb's drums all mixed together in a very pleasing way, and even though they don't sound like the original lineup, they don't need to. They have their own style, and they play it well. With all that said, I must repeat that this album really does sound almost completely different from the first album, and it's best that you know that going in. The difference itself isn't bad, but it can be jarring if you're not prepared for it. Unfortunately, I can't just keep blindly singing this album's praises. On its own, it is a very good listening experience, but we need to step back and look at the bigger picture. Like I said, this album hits the reset button on the story. The first album sent the heroes on a quest with a clear goal and an ironic twist ending. Angus has to gain the ultimate weapon to defeat evil, accidentally unleashes that evil in obtaining said weapon, but knows that he must still fight because containing evil is not the same as destroying it. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, once you put all the tracks in order, and even though it still ends with a cliffhanger, there's a clear idea in place for what will come next. On the second album, the new heroes are given a new quest. Find out what happened to the first hero and save him so he can get back to saving the universe. By the end, though, there's no progress made whatsoever. All that has been accomplished is the assembling of a new party and the setting of a new goal, which the narration towards the end declares to be utterly impossible. The all-seeing Astral Eye itself, which is the MacGuffin the heroes are trying to obtain, isn't even found. Also, nothing that's established in the first album carries over into the second album aside from the Sixcalibur sword. Angus is out of the picture, as mentioned. His laser-shooting dinosaur also appears to be gone. Zebulon makes no significant story appearance, as his capturing of Angus technically takes place before the album even starts. Telestris has no role in the story at all, and if the music videos are any hint, Talia's only musical contribution may be to the first song. To put it in movie terms, it's sort of like if the MCU started with the first Avengers movie, then went right into Thunderbolts, but neither one of them ended with the heroes fighting a proper villain. For all intents and purposes, yes. This album is 100% set up after the first album was about 85% set up, and by the end, it admits that it has no idea where it's going next because the objective is a nearly impossible long shot. I think the difference between these two albums can also be demonstrated in the music videos, and I'm not just talking about how the second album's music videos have a lot of AI-generated backgrounds. No, I'm talking about tone. Both sets of videos are campy, it's true, but even camp has degrees. The videos for The Sword of Power contain more ham than a Virginia smokehouse, but there's a sincerity to them. Even the comedic elements don't have the subversive postmodern, well, that happened kind of irony that you might expect. Homage is being paid to the classic fantasy works that inspired the band, particularly those from the 80s, and that requires emulation of the performances in such works. That comes through even in the animated videos. Think of it like the classic Looney Tunes short What's Opera Doc. It's ridiculous and aiming for laughs, but it's still true to the spirit of opera. Similarly, The Sword of Power is ludicrous, but it's still metal, darn it. I repeat, it's camp, but it's good camp. In the videos for the all-seeing Astral Eye, there's still plenty of ham to go around, but now it feels slightly less sincere. There's a lot of mugging at the camera, a lot of dancing, a lot of lame duck humor, and a sense of self-awareness that tells me everyone involved thinks this is ridiculous, so there's no reason to take it even remotely seriously. As such, watching them kinda takes me out of the experience. While the first batch of videos are charming, the second batch feels sarcastic, and that's not what I'm looking for in either my music or my fantasy. At this point, I guess I'll address the elephant in the room. The all-seeing Astral Eye replaces the first lineup with a new one, but how do we know that this lineup is permanent? I mean, we already swapped everyone out once, so what guarantee is there that it won't happen again? That, my friend, is the million-dollar question. When paired with the first album, the message this sophomore outing conveys is that I should not get invested in anything it presents because it might all be gone by the next album. If replacing everyone is this easy, then I can't be sure it won't happen again. Ergo, while I find the arc for Adam and the mysteries of Work Zero intriguing, that intrigue is ultimately tempered because there's no guarantee that either of those threads will continue in the future. Suppose Garrett Lamb decides he doesn't want to keep drumming in a padded costume and green makeup. If he leaves, does his character go with him without resolution? Or suppose that Thomas Winkler decides he's ready to come back for album 3. Does he share the stage with Samuel Nyman, or is there only room for one lead singer? Will Nyman even be there to replace if and when Winkler returns, or will there be another member of the MCSIX clan present by then? In fact, I think that brings us back to the question that started this video. You may recall the ship of Theseus asks if we are still dealing with the same ship after every single part has been replaced. Applying that to the band, is this still Angus MCSIX? Well, I guess technically I do have to say it's still Angus MCSIX, but in that case, what is Angus MCSIX? Well, I do think I have an answer, but I don't like it any more than you will. Okay, think about this for a moment. If we are to call ourselves fans of Angus MCSIX, what is it we are actually fans of? It can't be the music because the two albums don't really sound the same. It can't be the band members because the lineup is impermanent. It can't be the storyline because it can be upended at any moment. So what's left? Well, all that's left is this. The name and logo. This right here is the only permanent aspect of Angus MCSIX, and therein lies the unfortunate truth. Angus MCSIX is a brand. Not a band, a brand. And I just can't get behind that. Look, a full discussion of brand loyalty would bring us on a huge tangent that we don't need to go on right now. For our purposes, though, here's what's important. Brand loyalty requires you to know what exactly that brand represents. That's true whether you're talking about music or food or politics or transportation or appliances or action figures or basically anything. The McDonald's brand means fast food and maybe a toy if you're a kid. The Lego brand means interlocking bricks that can be assembled in ways limited only by your imagination. The Ferrari brand means expensive luxury sports cars that most of us will never be able to afford. I think you get the idea. Brands have to mean something, and we support brands that deliver what we enjoy. So what does the brand of Angus MCSIX mean? Well, in a broad sense it means music, But in a more specific sense, it means whatever it happens to be applied to at the time, and that's only possible if it has no meaning to begin with. Therefore, ANGUS MCSIX is a hollow brand. Ouch. Yeah, maybe I need to rephrase that a bit. Look, I mean no disrespect whatsoever to anybody who worked on this album. On its own, as I've already said, ANGUS MCSIX and the All-Seeing Astral Eye is good. The new lineup is very talented and the songs are catchy. If that's all you're looking for, then the album is absolutely worth listening to. My concern is that there are greater implications to consider. This isn't just an album, it's a continuation of an ongoing story. If the branding is the only thing that matters and everything else is gravy, then what's the point? I swear, I don't want to be negative, and I didn't go into this looking for an excuse to be negative. But I can't just ignore the red flags when I see them. Is this actually going anywhere, or is it all just about the logo? I think the answer might depend on how the third album turns out. Yeah, if there is a third album. Well, let's just assume for the moment that there will be. A third ANGUS MCSIX album has got to be more than just catchy tunes. We're talking about concept albums after all. These are songs that tell a story with characters represented by the band. Those elements need to matter. I want them to matter. If they don't matter, then there's no point to any of this. I'm not saying that because I want ANGUS MCSIX to fail. I'm saying it because I want ANGUS MCSIX to flourish. Only time will tell if it does or does not. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni viewer signing off. There have been some recent developments with gloryhammer as well, but we'll get to those next time.